Okay, so we're here on Soma Ara's Roundtable and channeling for today, November 9th. My eyesight these days. Um, anyway, but we're discussing Havana syndrome and attacks on the community. And Julia had a comment here, and then I like to respond to it because I have information that's definitely appropriate to be sharing here.
So I was looking at the symptoms and insomnia, dizziness, light sensitivity and eye strain, sound sensitivity, tinnitus and hearing reduction, impaired concentration and memory, fatigue, nervousness, sadness. I have all of these symptoms, along with intense pressure in the head, pain in the ears, tinnitus and hearing loss. I've lost 80% of my hearing in the last 15 years. So I have two hearing aids now. So yeah. But I'm based in the UK, so is it possible that the UK have been doing something to bring in Havana syndrome this side?
Absolutely. In another roundtable discussion, on another forum on Disclosure Now podcast, we also had Robert Khalil of Typical Skeptic podcast and several Montauk people and Secret Space Program experiencers, and also Chris Lettere, who's the actual real Duncan Cameron from the Montauk Project, who summoned the monsters that are referred to as Junior the Psychic Sasquatch, but there's actually at least five or six of these beings that he called through. Um, his one friend, the only place he was able to really get away from a lot of targeting in general was in Russia. And apparently that's because um, in Russia, maybe the families of bloodlines are having a harder time having free reign and being able to attack people. The Western democracies, so-called the Five Eyes nations, where the U.S., UK, Australia, um, I forget the other two uh, off the top of my head, they all have treaties to basically work with each other. And you've got the secret space programs. And then when it comes to targeting, there's so many levels of targeting and mechanisms of targeting that I want to discuss them because then there's ways to shield and counteract the different ones. Okay. So when we talk about Havana syndrome, as far as I understand, that's more like straight up psychotronic warfare. Like they know where you are digitally. They've got like a computer screen somewhere. They've got you and they're tuning into you, or they might have operatives in the area, maybe with like a briefcase or something, and they're close enough and they're within range and it's dialed into you and your frequency, and then they hit you with the beam energy, and then that could be like hearing loss. People who were working for the United States Embassy in Havana, that's why it's called Havana syndrome, when they were getting scans like magnetic resonance imagery, MRIs, they were finding like little brain damage. It's like these people didn't have brain damage before, and then they were getting like brain damage, they were getting blindness, they were getting deafness, they were getting headaches and migraines, hard time sleeping. Now, the other thing is I want to add some caution here. Okay. One, because there's like a million other things in our societies today that can cause a lot of stuff. Chemtrails, crap in the water, the special cocktails that people may have rolled up their sleeves for. And even if you didn't, you could be exposed to certain shedding and stuff like that and dealing with that. And then that could knock you for a loop. And is it, well, did I get hit with psychotronic warfare? Or did I like eat lunch and get too close with the wrong person and get shed on? Okay. There's that. So that's a word of caution. Um, on the positive, there's also ascension symptoms, right? So, drink more water because we may be ascending. Sometimes when some of us are being taken, apparently it's for upgrades and we will be sore, but it's not because they took us away to abuse us, not in certain cases. Okay. But then a lot of the people where they took us, our friends in the sky, so if your Starseed family came to bring us up there and upgraded us, either in the physical or the etheric, we could be sore back down here either way. Maybe a couple of nights later, the secret space programs, they because they were tracking this through remote viewing, through gamma ray bursts, through other technology that they have. Now they're abducting you, and then the next day you really do feel sore. It's because they were rough with you and they took a bunch of genetic samples because they said, "Ooh, here's a person of interest," because they must have some kind of like um, breakaway Palladian Lyran genetics that we want. Okay. And then now we're going to target this person and then hopefully call in their buddies so that when they fly in, we can shoot them down and get some nifty technology. And this is like how complicated it's getting out there. Another way, and I'm sharing this thanks to our friends Olivia James, who's the author of Gray Mouse, who it's about her time surviving SRA, secret space program, being used by royal families to in rituals and all sorts of stuff because she has very unique bloodline and abilities. I respect Olivia a lot, and she's a very strong person with an amazing testimony, and she's doing amazing work with Misha Johnston, also in our community, who does the ET experiencer and support groups and networking. Um,
Sorry, Brian, I missed that. Who was that?
Misha Johnston
And
and she and Olivia James.
okay,
And Olivia James wrote the book Gray Mouse because Gray Mouse, I guess, is kind of like an identity, um, in the related to the programs, or it's a reference there at least. Um, and they've been doing work together to utilize Olivia's abilities and her desires and her divine right to go after the darkness, to shed a light on this, to expose it, to free the children. That we dedicate this you to all the children still locked up in the underground bases that have yet to be freed. Not that some haven't been liberated, great, but there's still some many down there, I understand. Um, and she has a unique ability to tune in and channel and telepathically connect with in a remote view and biolocate and all that. And she consciously connected with the handler who is assigned to mess with her. Okay. And she's talked to many of these people. So she's acquired quite an amazing amount of knowledge on these people. And it turns out that a lot of these handlers, they're very select. They've been given all the training and then specifically for how to target that these folks in the programs are doing. I suspect that a lot of the handlers are really people with alters. And then a lot of the handlers might be people who are consciously the sellouts who and they are here in our community, so be wary, but don't be paranoid, but also don't be like a gullible lamb just walking around blind, um, who are here to mislead and to target and worse. And the handler was telling Olivia and Misha that and the others is like they have caseloads of like 33, so there's that number. Um, they can telepathically dial into you and they can taste what you're tasting, feel what you're feeling, see what you're seeing, all that. They can try to implant thoughts. They can have full-on conversations with you. It's Nathan Cizik, also the Halogean contact, who's also on Typical Skeptic quite a lot. Hopefully, can join us at the 2025 conference we're going to do for disclosure. Um, he says that yeah, they were targeting him and his handler and all these handlers. They're very smug. Okay, they're very much have the attitude of we've got all the money in the world, we've got all the technology in the world, we've got all the power in the world. There's nothing you can do. Ha ha ha. And they like to brag. They like to brag. What Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels of the lifting.net and Galactic Interstellar Council, nobody changing that name in that website, but what their contacts tell them, have confirmed, is that these handlers, you know what they hate the most? They hate it when they're targeting us who are supposed to be presenting at the conferences and they're doing their beam weaponing, or they're trying to like make us forget something mid-sentence. They do that a lot, or whatever, hit us with a frequency. Um, they you just pretend like it's not bothering you. You just keep on going with your presentation, and it doesn't matter. They're just like trying to knock you on the head. It doesn't matter, and you just keep on going like they're not even there. Apparently, that really pisses them off. On the other hand, what Olivia said, um, or no, it was in Misha, I think, said that she had a lady who they were in a session and able to contact this person's handler. And this handler was had this attitude. Yeah, I'm a handler. I'm here to mess with you and knock you off track. But compared to some of the other handlers, I treat you with kid gloves, kid. So if you want, you can have me swapped out for another handler. Here's your chance. And this person literally, the handler literally gave this lady like a chance. Do you want me or do you want the next guy? And I think the lady's like, chose. So yeah, it's that complicated.
So I did have a session with Misha recently, and she said I'm in a very dark area with lots of psychotronic warfare going on there. So like, what can we do? How can we block that out?
Okay, so I'm going to approach these people to sponsor us and other people, but there are companies out here. This company, I think they're more in the UK actually, so it'll be a lot easier and for our folks in Ireland to get as well. It's made by Shield, is EMF blocking hat where it's got um, within the hat underneath in the fabric, it has either a silver type or copper threading, which acts as Faraday shielding. Okay. So there's that. There's also
What is that website, Brian, for
this.
the hat?
So literally this uh, shield, look up for you if I look up shield EMF clothing or hats. And EMF is for electromagnetic fields. Then it's known as EMF blocking clothing. It's to block the signals. And then you can also get let me see if I could find it. A tri-field EMF meter is good. There's it's a little bit it's like $170, I think. I'm not sure online. So it's a little bit more pricey. But you that detects EMF frequencies, and you can leave it sitting like on your desk or like while you're, working away. And if all of a sudden goes and starts blipping, okay, then okay, I'm being hit with warfare. In that case, what I recommend is you want to start recording. And you want to say this is the date and the time and what you're working on and what you're being hit with. And hey, look at this EMF meter going nuts right next to me when it wasn't like all the rest of ever you know and this is what I'm working on, and I'm going to put this on blast. I'm going to put this on Facebook and SensorTube and Rumble and all the platforms. Tell my friends, have them share it, go on interviews. Okay. And now what you're doing is, that handler and organite pyramids should help too, because organite helps to disperse the negative frequencies. And I've seen video of people with good
Yeah.
organite products where they've got the EMF meter and the cell phone and or whatever, the router, and it literally does take it
These
down.
ones, these
So,
ones are called Orifin shungite, so they're infused with silver as well.
mm,
And these are really effective. We actually use these in crystal healing as well in the UK, because they
yes.
come in all different sizes, so we can do aura work with. I use these in my personal practice.
Because
Yeah,
it's taking the positive etheric energy, which we're surrounded by, chi, life force, prana, the force. Christina Webb Llewellyn in the United States uh, can be found on Facebook and also online, makes amazing organite products. She and so many others were affected by the weather warfare that was Hurricane Helene in the Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee areas. And so please go to find her online to get her amazing products. Help yourselves to take down the negative frequencies. So that's some of it for the psychotronic warfare. You can also go online and find
Brian, what is her website again?
her name is Christina Webb Llewellyn, and maybe as we're talking and someone else is talking, I'll find it and I could present it on and screen share for everybody. And I
Okay.
can screen share a bunch of this stuff that a
Yeah,
lot of people are probably going to be looking for.
yeah, that would be
Um, there,
great.
there's also this stuff, which is it's like, you know how this hat, I was talking about this hat is essentially is like lined with similar type fabric. So this is EMF blocking fabric that'll have like some kind of copper or silver or iodide type thread, silver type threads in it that'll help to knock down the radiation. So if you feel like you're really attacked, okay. And then there's also people who they sell uh these, which are Faraday bags. So these bags are also similar. And then I actually got a giant Faraday bag. It's like a giant size one where you could fit like a person in it. And, I have it so that literally if I ever felt someone was being targeted or under attack, not myself, but people close to me, because I've got other shielding and stuff. Um, they could get into the bag and theoretically, okay, let's see how bad you're being attacked now, at least psychotronically, because theoretically, psychotronic warfare shouldn't be able to get to a Faraday cage area. Okay. There are people who will do larger size pyramids with the proper copper or brass combination at these right angle at the proper angles of this tetrahedron to take down the signal. There are um, people who like surround their bedded area. Like, imagine having a four-post bed, and then like suspending this Faraday sheeting. Okay, that's a way to help protect yourself. Going underground, 3 feet or more underground, unless you're sending the pulse like through the earth and up through the ground, then you want to have your own separate cage. Now, now you're freaking serious. Okay, now you're Batman. Um, it's like, and you got a lot of money. So, um, then you got, what else could you do? Um, then I recommend going offensive. Okay, this is kind of like the X factor that we never had until now, and that we're using the interwebs against them. The other side right now wishes they could shut down the internet because we're using it too much, despite all their censorship, to catch on. It's pissing them off. And that's why they've launched this counter operation, Operation Oblivion or Project Oblivion, especially to target people, the brightest lights in the disclosure movement. People are driving Ascension, who are doing lectures and interviews and writing books and doing podcasts and organizing stuff because now, according to the handler talking to Olivia James, too many at first. The experiencers were crazy tinfoil hat minority that no one believed and people openly mocked. But now there's too many people coming out with too much verifiable, credible information based off of known histories already, showing where and the P. Diddy stuff is all coming out, and the islands and all that, and the Hollywood stuff and the Jimmy Savile stuff, and the BBC and the royal families, and it's becoming too obvious. And then so that to go offensively, this is where reach out to our friends like Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels and Sean Bond and Lily Nova and all these people. Not all. There's people also. There are people. I definitely have a recommend list. Okay, and anyone who's interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, because I'm more than happy to share it. Because I don't want to just say, oh, just go to anyone and get a reading, but assuming you've got a good, trustworthy reader, two things. I've got two litmus tests right now.
Can I just ask you a
Yes,
quick question there,
of
Brian?
course. No.
Would you please send me that recommend list and I will.
Oh, no, no, you and I have to have a chat. We're gonna have to type it up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but for the most part, the people on the people on my conference website, people who I do shows with, that's already a good indicator, the people who I'm working with.
And
Um,
and
con
just
and yeah.
and just for the audience, what is your conferences?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Soma. It's the Full Disclosure Now conferences. We did the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference just this last July in Florida before it got walloped with weather warfare. Literally, the day we were ending our conference was the day when they shut down all air travel and traffic for like a day and a half, and it messed with a lot of people. But apparently, according to the Galactics, they and I don't know if it's the white hats, but the positives forces were able to hold off the major interference from our conference. We got interference, but we got a lot of protection. Thank you to our friends who did that, um, to negate the other side. And but assuming you've got a good remote viewer, psychic medium, channeler with good guides, you're in touch with your higher self, a QHHT, hypnotherapy regression to work with, um, and also do your own work and try to master all of those things as well on your own and employ them. But crowdsource and figure out, okay, who's my handler? Okay, who's their boss? Find out with your remote viewer friends or people who have ETs and spirit guides and your higher self or source connection, even better yet. And uh, get the answers. And now you're and then share this information with everybody as far and wide as you can, expose the darkness. Because what do abusers and pedophiles not and Satanists not like? They don't like and parasites and bacteria and scum. They don't like to be exposed to the light of day. They don't like to be disinfected and cleansed or shamed or mocked because they're going to be shown for who they really are. They want to be able to maintain that mask. And so this is a lot of what this is part of it. The other thing I say is and others is to document everything, right? I mean, that's just not just if you, in the disclosure movement. If it's any important case, anything important to you, document it well. Video now, online, make posts, make it be known. And then and also there's something else in terms of documentation, letting them know. Oh, also, I think we were having some discussion earlier before we hit record. Uh, Dennis and was making a great suggestion about tune in to the person or entity that has been sent to mess with you and check in with them. Let them know, hey, you're working for the other side. Do you like being on that side of the desk, chained to it to mess with me while I get to binge on online stuff and run around and yeah, you can target me, but you realize who you're working for, and you're probably not happy either. And hey, let's work together. Let's break you free. That's great. It's also an appeal to them for amnesty. Hey, you guys want not I'm not we're appealing to them for amnesty. We're offering them. We're appealing to them to say, hey, would you like some amnesty? When the tribunals kick off worldwide, and people like Arkeem have literally seen this and not dreamt it, not remote viewed it, not astrally projected or bilocated, literally went through a portal to those timelines. Not there weren't many out of like a lot of the dark timelines. Okay, but we're narrowing on the higher timelines. Um, like let's go for the highest, right? That we can. And he said there are at least seven that he saw where there were worldwide televised tribunals. They were all being put on trial. They were all in orange jumpsuits because they all need to sort out who are the Justin Biebers, who are the P. Diddy's, who are the Beyoncés, who are the Lucian Granges, Jimmy Savilles, Tommy Yamota's, or Matola's, sorry, who's the one, the record execs torturing Michael Jackson and all the rest of them, and who are above P. Diddy and all that. And I like to name names, by the way. And so, and um, all the way up to the royal families and the bloodline families, and then to expose the secret space programs, the secret space program families, the underground bases, the awful world breakaway civilizations, the bad Germans on Mars running ICC. It's like international, no, interplanetary corporate conglomerate. And that's how high, and then to the archonic forces, Luciferian and archonic forces, basically. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Julia. If anyone would like to ask any questions or chime in, please. I could go on about uh basically other ways of protection is because we have free will, the so-called or not so-called, but the good forces, forces of good, the light, they cannot and will not interfere on our behalves unless we ask them to. And the more specific we can be, and the more clear we can be about it being for our and everyone else's highest good, in accordance with source God and our own highest self's will, uh, that whoever they want to send, and so I ask this now, please protect me, whoever of the highest good, no conflicting agendas. Okay, is also another one for the highest, greatest good for me and everyone else in this timeline, right? And in accordance with the prayer, right? As I am one with all, like as we're once harmed, all are harmed. We're once helped, all is helped, right? And then so it's invoking divine protection. But then I also want to give a word of caution. There are some attacks on upon us. There are some thorns in our side that we're meant to endure, and it's okay. We shall overcome. And in the overcoming, we're stronger for it. We have a greater testimony. We have a greater experience. On the other side, and now we've got a lot more experience to share. And we become stronger off it spiritually for sure. Even if we're maimed physically, spiritually, and then in the next incarnation, that's probably going to be like a plus 1,000 on somewhere. So, there's that perspective to have. And it's so, they're like, there's shaman Stephen Jurek, and he talks about this, the wounded shaman. Some people they're very gifted psychically, telepathically, dream walking and, healing people through laying of the hands and Reiki. But they themselves have some kind of affliction that they can't necessarily get over. And then people are like, hey, look at you. You've got a limp. How good a healer are you? Like, fuck you. It's like, no, sometimes people are just, they just, and it's okay. And that's where it's a lesson to all of us to have patience and forbearance and, you know, yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah.
What's his name again, Brian?
Stephen Durek, Durek, or Steve Durek, and he's African American, so he has like a lot of like African um shamanism probably in his bloodline and his heritage. And he's got some amazing testimony about how he awakened to his calling. And so I don't know him personally, but I've seen enough of his testimony to say, yeah, it's a lot to be learned there.
I think I've heard of him before. I think I've heard him speak about what you were just saying before.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And but I can give another example. Audrey Walters has talked about this. Um, a lot. She is very much galactic starseed, the heritage. She has a lot of abilities and knowledge in relationship to portals and stargates, and like all the natural organic stargates, like the stone ones, um, especially like the ley line ones. they're conscious and you can talk to them. They like to be thanked. They like to take you on adventures. You can ask them, can you show me what's on the other side? Like you don't have to like go through it to find out what's on the other side. You can say, hey, can you show me if I go to the other side, can you do a scrying for me and pull up on the screen on your screen here what I'm going to see? And they like to, and thank them if they take you on an adventure, and they can and there's that. Um, on the on the other flip side of that, apparently you can get void sickness if you try to go through a Stargate with bad intention, low frequency vibration, like you're going across to raid some civilization on the other side of that Stargate because they've got some amazing technology or resources that you want to plunder, or people or beings that you want to kidnap to exploit somehow. Then you can end up with levels like one, two, and three void sickness, which are varying levels of being harmed to the point of death. Yeah. There's a lot of disclosure in the Marvel movies because those people that's related to satanic pedophile Hollywood. And so they really do have the inside scoop. And so some of the characters, or a lot of the characters in those movies and in the comic books are based on real beings, agents, assets, entities, operatives. And then in the comic books, apparently, especially the so-called bad guys, the ones that the people getting to write the comics don't like, they would like make the bad guys or people they don't like funny colors or make them look stupid in some way. And Arkeem Ra literally has recall of being in the Montauk time travel SSP projects as a time agent assigned by one faction to bodyguard John F. Kennedy. And he has recalls of being in a different avatar body bodyguarding JFK with another operative agent. I don't know if it was Kat or if it was someone else in the here and now, Kat Aphelion, who's his girlfriend, fiance now. Um, and where they were on a mission and he feels really bad they failed, obviously, because that was another faction, because there are many factions out there working together and at cross purposes, as you can see. And they would drink like brandy and whiskey out of like or champagne on ice in the Oval Office he would with JFK and smoke cigars and would have the old time because back in then it's like the 60s. The back then those Marvel comic books brought into them and they would sometimes chillax and smoke cigars and drink good whiskey and brandy and read the comics and they would laugh and joke about how funny it was and like the real life people and the inside jokes and the bad guys they made look stupid because they like colored their face purple or whatever. So yeah, I'm trying to give a lot of disclosure here and context because at the end of the day, the programs like Project Oblivion to target us and to make our lives living hell to the best of their ability, it's to blunt our light so that we anchor in less light, we're vibrating less high, so that individually and collectively we're anchoring in a lower timeline, which is what the other side wants. Okay, and that's what they're doing through their movies and music and media, trying to get us to think that it's cool to want to rape, kill, steal, and destroy and eat and all that and take and be a parasite. It's not cool. It never was. But they always wanted it to look that way. And now they're being exposed because now enough of us are being like, well, Elvis is kind of that was cool. And blue jeans, okay, I could be down with that, but like, like hurting people because you're a tough thug and hurting little people so that you can live longer, like that was never cool and never will be. And so they're losing in power as we're exposing them. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect is then to directly in a
Can I just ask
targeted
you
fact.
a
Yeah,
quick
of
question?
course. Of
Right,
course. Yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
So, do you feel, because I do, that Trump is um, helping us to helping humanity to move forward?
My feeling is that the entity or avatar known as Trump, if that even the original Trump, I've got a couple theories on this. Time traveler family Trump, white hats and Q, and that's great. Okay. And then that leads us to Earth Alliance. That's the most positive projection. Then there's some time travel. He's kind of hip, but he's not as hip as I would hope. And he's not working with as many galactics as much, if any, really directly. And there's some though, as I would hope. But he's playing both sides, and he's we'll see. But in general, he's for the better. Okay. And then there's like the pessimistic is, oh, it doesn't matter if we had Harris or Trump. They all work for the Luciferians, right? That's a pessimistic version. I personally am more in between versions one and two. And and I've got a lot of proofs of this, the amount of money trying to steal the elections back 2016, 2020, this election, and it is all documented digitally, video, eyewitness testimony, arrest records, and otherwise, court hearings, cases, digital forensics. In the case of the Dominion voting machines, so-called, or Dominion dumpster boxes, and uh, the assassination attempts, the fact that all of like the P. Diddy crowd there and the Oprah Winfrey Island people crowd are all against him. We know why, because of the P Gate scandals are very real, just like Jimmy Savile and the royal family. People would have been mocked if like all this stuff about Jimmy Savile hadn't come out, and you were like trying to say, "Oh, Jimmy Savile, this Jimmy Savile, oh, ha ha ha, you pizza, you guys are stupid, tinfoil hat." Like, yeah, well, you can't do that with Jimmy Savile case anymore.
There's
And that,
also
and
there's also another guy who I feel very strongly was part of that, called
mm.
Benny Hill,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
who was going back in the UK to the 60s, I believe. Um,
yeah,
uh,
the Benny Hill show. Yeah, he was
yeah,
openly misogynistic on the show. It was terrible. And it was like, I mean, I just remember being a child watching Benny Hill reruns, like the funny intro, like real knee smacker there. And then watching the sh clips of the show, and I was like, this is messed up. Like just as a child, I knew instinctively there's something messed up and wrong there, you know. But yes, absolutely. Anyone in those circles, because we were just discussing this last night, in fact, because Arkeem was in the time travel projects part of under Michael Aquino, the Temple of Set, sent on a time travel mission or missions, but it was really the same mission overall to make the Son of Sam murders happen. And it was really not only to be a psyop false flag to terrorize the normie 3D community, but it was also a more 4D, 5D time travel mission to eliminate a group of Christian believers known as, I think he was saying, the Order of the Sacred Heart. And it's not to be confused with Catholicism, not at all. Okay. And the kind of one of the jokes was that one of the lead organizers or participants in this church, really, he looked like the Cesare de Borgia depiction of Christ, which is not what Christ looked like. For everyone in our audience, the de Borgia family with the Vatican and the Illuminati bloodlines down here on Earth, they um, commissioned an artist way back in the day in Renaissance Italy to take their idiot cousin Cesare de Borgia and do a portrait of him. And that's a portrait of him as Christ with like a flaming heart irradiating you know light from it out. Um, this person apparently in this group looked like this person. And so everyone said, "Hey, it's Jesus, it's Jesus." And so they kind of like riffed off the joke because the guy really hated it. He's like, no, really, brother Yeshua, he looked like this. And then they showed drawings and went to the Middle East and in this other alternate timeline. And I say alternate timeline because Arkeem and probably other agents were sent back in time to discredit people and to kill people. And in some of them to kill them in particularly nasty ways because these Illuminati elite pay for snuff films and also to maximize the trauma to the population. So Arkeem was ordered to by probably directly ordered by Michael Aquino because he remembers Colonel Aquino welcoming him back after he got back from these missions. And on some of them, I'm sorry I'm being graphic, so feel free to bleep this out for recording if it doesn't jive with your audience. But
No,
he
no, it's fine. I don't like to edit people.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I know. I'm telling the whole thing because I'm someone who doesn't edit. Just like there's testimony online of like little children talking to counselors and they're not editing. I don't edit. Okay, that's not my job. If I was a child in a cage in an underground base, I don't want people up here editing. Thank you. So Arkeem was made order to basically disembowel people, and they're still alive, mind you, and strangle them with their intestines and film it. Okay. And he remembers like blood coming out of their mouth and the look of horror in their eyes and their faces as they were dying. And him coming back and Colonel Michael Aquino is a
I'm
satanic bastard.
sorry. I'm sorry, but
Basically,
it's
yeah.
quite I don't censor people and I don't edit people. And I would just, I don't know if Dennis is driving, but before you continue, Dennis, can you step in and do an I am prayer, please?
Oh yeah. Yeah, do prayer,
Thank you,
please.
Brian.
Hmm.
This stuff is important to get out there, and I'm
Actually, this is a demonstration, Soma, of protection, protecting ourselves, psychic defense and offense. So it's an excellent time for this.
thank you, Brian.
I am actually running.
You're on mute, Julia.
No, I'm just saying I am running a clearing behind the scenes of the energy in the group, putting in some extra protections.
We have got some fantastic people here in this group, who are very knowledgeable, very aware of some of the dark stuff, and some amazing protectors, amazing protective energy in this group, as that runs alongside a knowledge of how dark things really are. So Dennis, would you please step in and do some I am prayers?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Very slightly. Can you speak in more to the microphone?
Oh, it seems to. Oh, can you hear me okay?
What did you say?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. There's some problem with the sound here, but that's fine. All right. So I will say the law of one prayer. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks this is done. It is so. I will repeat this 2 more times. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks this is done. It is so. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks this is done. It is so. And I will speak the affirmation share to blossom good child, which has these 4 lines. I am the light. I am the love. I am the truth. I am. I am the light. I am the love. I am the truth. I am. I am the light. I am the love. I am the truth. I am. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Definitely it feels clear. And I'm glad you did that because I know I'm talking about some dark names and I'm not doing so to give them any glory in the least. Naming names because those who are in the darkness don't like to be exposed to the light. And then also those in the darkness who are listening to us and who would seek to interfere. Here's your chance for amnesty to come clean and to do the right thing in whatever way and situation you can. The eyes are watching. So, yeah, back to this. I just want to go back to this because this is really significant. The testimony that Arkeem shared last night, and Whoopi. It's like I mean, not Whoopi, and it's no offense because the 48 people or 50 people who showed up last night when we're able to witness it are amazing people. I'm not discounting that, but wow, we need to be getting to millions with this testimony. So it just feels like a drop in the bucket sometimes, but it's very significant drops. So um, yeah, he has specific recall of Colonel Aquino congratulating him, but still treating him like dog poop, and that's how nasty these satanic bastards are. Is they don't have any love. They don't have any light. At best, like a job well done is you horribly murdered someone to ruin the timeline. Welcome back to base. Now like we'll give you an extra sandwich and like you don't get tortured as much tonight. That's like what their lives were. That's the lives of people like in these programs. It's not glamorous. That's why so many people in the community will say the term super soldier, it's a misnomer. They don't feel so super because unfortunately they're being sent on horrible missions. They could be super soldiers if it wasn't for the torture being perpetrated upon them and the exploitation and really the lowering of the timeline for all of us. Because what Arkeem says is that this group that was eliminated through the Son of Sam BS psyop. And this person, the David Berkowitz himself, apparently is still alive and in prison. And I pray blessings to him. He's had a lot framed on him, and he's since come out and said, "I didn't act alone. It wasn't my dog who told me to do it. I was part of a satanic cult." Okay. Well, it turns out he was part of a satanic time travel cult linked to the Illuminati derp state to put us on a bad timeline. And it's a huge revelation. And Arkeem, totally against his will, was made to participate in this. There's an altar that did that. And there's a testimony out there to be found easily online now called it's like the testimony of a real life man in black, Joseph Spencer, and he's gone now. But he basically before he went to the grave, he in this life he gave his testimony, and he laid it all out. How as a man in black, he was MK Ultra when he went into the army as a young man, and they LSD and Manchurian candidate mind control and the works. They mind wiped him, gave him altars, and they would send him after people like us, but like in the 1970s, and silence them. And he had recall of like apparently the Men in Black, they really do have like a flashy kind of like pointer like device thing to like make you like blank your memory. It's like a cattle prod thing also where they can shock you with it to the point where it's like fatal. It causes a heart attack and you die. And apparently this he in his testimony, find it online, don't just take my word for it. Um he um he recalls his alter fumbling and like while trying to kill a female ufologist who's like a famous name. She's could be easily found in the history books here. Um, and had to resort to strangling her. And then in his testimony, he's talking about remembering seeing the look of horror in her face as was killing her. But at the time, he didn't even know what he was doing. So this is another word of caution. And not to make people paranoid, because it's just for people to know, because the more you know, the more you can counter it and integrate and heal from it. A lot of people who've had abuse and MK Ultra perpetrated upon us, and I use the word us loosely because I'm told by many people that I'm somehow related in these programs and projects, and they may have seen me here and there, but I have zero remembering recollection of no nothing. Okay, so um, but I know I'm on a lot of lists. I'm definitely know I've been targeted. I've got stuff on the line too, like everyone else. So I use the royal we, the real royal we, as opposed to the vermin wannabe royals. Um, uh, Basically, how I just said about, don't take my word for it and discernment. Sometimes people in the programs we can have alters to self-sabotage and you don't even know it. So there's a member in our community, very well known. I won't say his name, but he's, said to Arakim, I sometimes like I'll do an amazing like 2 hour long video or however long, put all my time and energy into it, or I'll write in my diary, and then I'll wake up the next morning and it's gone, it's deleted, or the pages are ripped out, and I don't know how they're getting in. I don't, did they portal in? Is it ETs? Is it the NSA, getting into my hard drive through my internet? Like, what is it? And it was maybe Arky, it might have been Drago was saying to our buddy, like, no, dude, like, in all likelihood, you might be altering out and hitting the delete button. You might be altering out and crumbling, tearing out the pages that you just spent 2 hours writing. Okay. You might have three different alters. And one's trying to help and one's trying to remember, and then one acts like a little child, when you're very upset. And they each have a different name and a way to contact them. Um, and they each have different abilities. And that's part of the frustration for a lot of people in the programs is like in the programs they can do remote viewing and telepathy and this and this and that, but it might not be in the here and now. It might be when they're in a particular altar is able to access that theta state that lets them remote view, for example. Um, another thing, but in knowing that you may possibly have alters, you can talk to those alters and you can work with them because at the end of the day, they all, I'm going to refer to them as they, even though they're fragments of the same person, um, have the same common desire to have the highest timeline for the individual and for the greatest good, you know.
Do you think it's worth going for like hypnosis for that kind of thing? Because I have had one session of QHHT and we just could not get through. Couldn't get through something that made me really start to doubt, like, is there something there blocking? We couldn't contact my higher self. We couldn't get any recall come through. It was just really unusual. I don't know if you've had any
So,
experience with
so
that.
actually, well, yeah, I mean, I feel actually very much in the same boat with you because I feel like I'm one of those people who can't be hypnotized. And everyone's like, especially people who've been through the programs, like, and recall it, like, oh no, Brian, you can be hypnotized, and we've all been hypnotized. Just you don't even know it. I'm like, no, no, I don't think so. Whatever, at least I don't recall. Fine. And so, you know, do I look at that session as like a failure, or myself as a failure, or the person I was trying to do the session with as a failure? Not necessarily. And actually, I'm glad you raised this because wanted to get into this, the litmus test. And so I want to make sure I remember this later. But um,
It's
the
it's a little bit like the Winter Soldier, isn't it? Where there has
very,
to be,
it is
right?
exactly like the Winter Soldier, except there's add-ons even. So like in the Winter Soldier, like they could have him on the telephone or just in front of him, he's strapped to a chair, and like you say like 5 words of Russian. Solskaya, Roboto, Origato, Domo, Chereskova, Chernobyl. No, and he's like, I'm reporting for duty. What's up, comrade? Yeah, but a lot of times I've heard like they'll incorporate signals or like claps or like a frequency like boop, beep, doo, the tones, um, a pinch to the person, things like that. And you'll see handlers do this to reactivate people who kind of like alter out or they seem like a clone malfunction. There's plenty of this out there to be found now. Um, so did that answer your question, Julia?
Yeah, because as you're talking about this stuff, I'm getting physical reactions here, and I've been told that I'm a MyLab, but I don't have any knowledge of that.
Well,
So
oh yeah.
it's making me feel really uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
there's something there,
Let me, yeah,
Yeah.
so let's talk about this. If you have a physical or visceral or emotional, deep or spiritual reaction or attraction to the subject matter, like I gotta find out more. Like this person's talking about something that just resonates. I want to find out more because it sounds familiar, but tell me more, tell me more. There's that, that's a sign that you've been involved in programs or abductions or experiences of one kind or another. And then, like I was saying earlier, sometimes some lead to or relate to the others. So don't get too confused because realize it can be complicated. And then the other thing is, um, if it doesn't work to try the quantum hypnosis healing technique with a particular therapist or practitioner, maybe try a different one or try to switch up the modality to someone who maybe find someone who is a skilled uh, psychic medium who can contact the guides themselves. They don't need to put you under to contact your guide. They'll just directly do it. And there are people out there like Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels. They work together and to do sessions, and they're good. Um, there's other people too. I don't want to name off the top of my head, but right now, but um, and it also it will depend on the person. Sometimes there are like beautiful young women who have been through a lot, and maybe it might be easier to deal with a woman or not. Because I've seen it where, and I would have thought, oh, let's pair this person up with a female, and it turned out that it was like an older female, and there might have been some bad chemistry where the young, beautiful female felt some kind of animosity, whether it was there or not, or some kind of jealousy in her looks or whatever, and it and or judgmentalism from the older female, and I should have put her with like a male, older, younger, I don't know, but not in this situation, the female in this case. Or maybe or maybe it wasn't there was an older female and it was just bad chemistry. Also, that person, even though they're very psychic and skilled and are great for they're very skilled for a lot of cases, they themselves haven't been through the programs. So sometimes it's helpful, especially if you're going to be dealing with experiences or you think you're going to be dealing with experiences that are related to programs, it's good to find people like Drago Reed, who does QHHT, um, who's been in the programs. So now when he's got you under, he knows exactly what he's looking for. and what questions to ask, and nothing's going to blow him away. And he's ever like, wait a second, your higher self is telling me that you got devoured by reptilians and then thrown in a regeneration tank, and then like you had to like go eat other people. No, no, this is like some weird screen memory, or whatever, or some evil entity is beaming in wrong knowledge. The other thing is there's someone out there, I forget who, it seemed like good advice. She cautioned against getting too many readings, but I think that might be if it's like, you're just trying to like figure out like your in a more mundane way your own future. But I think that someone who's trying to recover memories, get recall, do work, and overcome and transmute and alchemize even the worst traumas, and also remember the best experiences that were also taken away from them, and us, whoever. um I say do as much work as you yourself and your gut feel like doing, because your gut, what a lot of people in the community are finding is that if you want to regain and recall a memory, like let's say you're watching TV and somebody flashes on the screen like a celebrity and you feel sick, if you want to get recall, dial into the emotion that you felt. Like you felt sick, and then you felt a moment of like laughter or derision for this person. And you're like, wow, why am I watching Jennifer Lopez? Okay. Okay, and I'm laughing. At first, I felt sick to my stomach in this one scene where she's like doing this like dark, bloody stuff, and then in the next where like they're clowning her, like I'm just laughing, and I just realized that she's a nothing. But then it turns out you have a memory in an underground base where she's torturing you. But then while she's torturing you, all the other people are just laughing at her, being like, she's a nobody, and they're bored. And that's very much would be in line with, say, a Donald Marshall. Donald Marshall's testimony is very similar. I don't know if he names Jennifer Lopez in particular, but he's named many people in the dumps, which we believe are up in Canada somewhere. And Chris Letterer, I believe, would concur with that, along with other people. And then I've got litmus tests for how do you know if a psychic or healer is good. This is my personal preference. And so I'm going to say, I know a lot of people, they hate politics, da, 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 da. These are my personal politics, but I incorporate them into my own personal work. So I'll let that be known that, yes, I do have my own personal biases, but that I'm trying to give the best informed understanding and analysis. So I'm applying that. It just shines and it through in all my work. So the number one litmus test I use is there are psychics and channelers and people in touch with galactics in our community who, when the scamdemic rolled out in end of 2019, early 2020, and then the subsequent bioweapons cocktail campaign, they pushed people to take them. Bashar did this, and Sadhguru did this. Since then, Sadhguru has needed brain surgery, and you can see the pictures of him with his swelled up head and post recovery and all that. After he pushed the jabs in the World Health Organization, Antonio Arillo has very publicly done a Galactic Tribunal Soul Council reading, hearing on Bashar, and it's found that Bashar, while he has a positive incarnation and aspect, there's also a fallen aspect that has sold out, is being used by the archons in past timelines to lead civilizations astray, and is attempting to do likewise by pushing this transhumanism route, incorporating with the Greys route, take all the jabs route, listen to your most informed authorities on their World Health Organization recommendations in 15-minute cities. That is a transhumanism archonic line. And I'll call that out to say, oh, hey, he talks to galactic people, and hey, I'm in the community. I organize people who are in touch with galactics, and we all want a higher Earth, right? We're on the same team. I wish I could say that. We're all, I think if you use your discernment and our fruit, we shall be known by our fruits. me and everyone else. How we, you know, um, perform now, middle, beginning, end of it at the end of the day, across the finish line, it's all will be revealed. And so there's a lot of psychics and healers who, if they are pushed any of that line, don't go to them for healing. Okay. Right now, I'm getting a lot of Schadenfreude from watching, on the one hand, the psychics and healers and channelers like Lily Nova, who they've been calling it the whole time, for Team Trump, or not because it's necessarily Trump, but like forces representing or behind, okay, versus, the Killary team, Team Killary. I'll say it. Um, to get Hillaried it's a verb, and right now. And the there's psychics right now where there are, and tarot readers. There's one who's saying, she just did a video saying the tarot readers who called it for Kamala got it right. Sorry, the tarot readers I mean the astrologers who called it for Trump got it right, and the tarot card readers calling it for Harris got it wrong. That was her, like, that's basically the gist of her video. And I responded, no, there's tarot card readers like Janine, Tarot by Janine, who's very pro Trump, very pro red. So that's a false dichotomy right there. And there's a lot of people, they're like, I don't get it. Like, my guides have been telling me this whole time that Kamala's going to win. And then now they're talking like how the darkness has triumphed, and now how like you have to hide your certain friends depending on their migration status or sexuality or gender identity, and it's really ridiculous, and it shows a lack of discernment. Did you have to, hide in 2016 when the bad orange guy got in office? Did you die? But did you die is the meme, and what's really sad, and this is what's really sad and ironic. 24 hours Within 24 hours after people figuring out that Trump, Trump, Team Red, whatever, I've got nothing in, I'm not a hero worshiper, when Trump, when he won, he's our lawful president. I'm going to respect that. And I voted for him. So I'll also put that out there. When he won, we had 2,038 recorded suicides across the United States. 2,038. Okay. That's self-inflicted stuff. I would not be surprised if the vast majority of those people had taken the jibbies. And so in that case, I recommend parasite cleanse and detoxification stuff, and reach out to experts like at the biosanctuary.org, and I forget the other one. It's like the Institute for Energetic Life Studies. Dr. Healy, Henry Ely is a practitioner, as a physician at one of these places. They reach out to an institute where they specialize in this stuff if you're really serious, and get cleaned up, because a lot of people were finding psychosis is being a one side effect of the cocktails. And so there, and then Trump winning, setting people off, and then 2,038 people committing suicide overnight. That blows my mind, y'all. And we don't have to succumb to the fear. And that's where, I believe that the higher Christed true light timeline is one where, yeah, in this timeline, Team Red won. Literally, from a time traveler Montauk Project testimony. This is not my own testimony, but all the people I've talked to who have been in the projects, from James Rink to Arkeem Ra and Drago Reed, and other people, um, might have been Chastity Campbell as well, and Christy Campbell. They've seen these other timelines. In the 2016 timeline where Hillary wins, it's bad. We have World War III and a nuclear war, or wars, because there's multiple versions of the timelines, and In one of them, our team specifically remembers he believes that where neutron bombs were used because like in the major cities, like all the buildings are standing, but they're all deserted. And it's like they're like overgrown with like plants and animals are running around. And so he that's literally what happens in those timelines. Philip K. Dick, the science fiction author, I suspect strongly he was in the programs. And he definitely was writing about alternate timelines, time travel, the resolution of so-called paradoxes, telepathy, all sorts of stuff. He was dialed in. And if you want to help support him in his memory, Tessa Dick, his widow, is still alive, living in the home they shared in Berkeley, trying to keep it. And she's almost reached the GoFundMe that someone set up with $25,000, I believe. I personally contributed to it. I ask you to do the same if you can out there. You can find it on GoFundMe for under Tessa Dick. And she's got like 22,000 around out of 25,000, but she doesn't get any of it until she gets the full donation amount unlocked. And she's older. And so if you can help, if you're a fan of Blade Runner, Total Recall, The Man in the High Tower or Castle, um, so much more, and really getting the truth out, and helping a wonderful person because she herself has done work in the movement, and is an author in her own right and has done work to keep his legacy alive and is still doing so. Please go that way. Yeah, and so those are my two litmus tests.
What
If
is her
if they're
name, Brian?
Tessa Dick, because there was the author Philip K. Dick, and his widow is Tessa, and then her last name is Dick, and then I'm not sure if her middle name is B or if she has a middle name, but you should be able to find her. She's also findable on Facebook, and you can't find her there. You can reach out directly to me at Brian_sang@yahoo.com, and it's spelled just like my name here on the screen. Reach out to me directly and find me on Facebook as Brian Sang the Solar Bee because I'm being so heavily banned that even if we have 200 plus mutual friends on Facebook, if you don't add my nickname Solar Bee to the Brian Sang, I might not appear in your search. But yeah, there's plenty of psychics who they're like they're still scratching their heads. They're running the Monday morning play-by-play quarterbacking, and it tells me that they have no discernment, and they're buying into the lower jab line, sorry, timeline, um, um, intentionally or not, they are. And that's of free will. And I'm not judging because, my understanding from a fifth dimensional perspective is that a lot of us signed up to experience the lower timeline to find out what that's like. And so I'm not holding against anybody. Um, but yeah, this is what I know.
And then there was also the Dalai Lama as well.
Oh, he's evil. He's terrible. And so people like Pamela Arlen are they push him, and she was probably on the Kamala side. I reached out to her to warn her against a certain new age streaming service. And after she saw an interview I did, and she said, well, I'm going to go work with them. And so I don't, I'm just going to go this way. I'm not going to work with you. And I'm like, that's your response because you're going to go work with them after I said X, Y, and Z of all the nefariousness there and you're going to shun me. It's like, well, we're not shunning you. It's just we all have our own timeline path to walk, love and light.
Yeah, we
You
do.
know,
Yeah,
well,
we do.
we do, and you
But
can.
but
But I'll call you out for it if you're on the side of the P files.
yeah,
Okay, I am not going to let you just go, oh, love and light, namaste, see you never.
no,
No, F that.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree, Brian.
Right. I don't play like that. That's not my job. My job was I was put here to play the way Solar Bee plays. I name names, basically. It's the sword of truth. That's the only weapon I need. I don't need any of the stuff on my wall. The sword is truth. The sword of truth, the word of God, um, it's the mightiest weapon. if you're shedding the light, you know, and there you go. So, yeah, so there's a lot of buyer beware to be had even within this community. And from an organizer perspective and a movement perspective, what it is yes, we do need unity and unity consciousness, but we need to be unified first on agreed principles, higher, universal, agreed upon principles, so that we're able to have a measuring stick to hold our own actions against to see if we measure up or not, or how we can improve, because it's about better practice and a goal versus we're bad people and being judgmental. I understand that. No, you know, um, usually I get nasty when people blow me off as a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist and blow off all the testimony and research that didn't come from me, but that I'm just trying to convey as a messenger. Because then it's just an insult to me. It's an insult to literally the children in down there in the underground bases.
Yeah. And I was I was fun it's funny because I was thinking of I think it was this morning, or was it last night? I was in between half asleep and half awake, and I was thinking of the little Indian boy that was accidentally videotaped trying to, you know what I mean, trying to escape from Kensington Palace in London. And I was thinking about that this morning, and it's funny because of that dream I had last night with those people. I don't want to talk about that publicly, but we were talking about
Yeah.
it earlier.
Oh, you mentioned the Dalai Lama, the video of him telling the kid to suck his tongue. And people are saying, oh, no, no, that's just his culture. How dare you be offended at that? It was taken out of context. No, it wasn't. A lot of people don't know is I'll give the historical context to the Dalai Lama and that particular sect. Historically, before, the evil Chinese Communist Party came in and took over Tibet, and I'm not going to take a side either way on that one, right? But I'm a Chinese American, and my parents were like, my grandparents rather have like tied us to like either side on World War II. So like I don't even have, I'm divided in that one as well. But one actually never, no, I'm not. I take that back on the World War II stuff, and that's a whole other situation. But in China, but needless to say, in China or in Tibet rather, in that region, it's a very mountainous region. It's very poor in resources. Cultivation is extremely difficult. They literally have to like terrace the farmland out of like rocky mountainside. Okay. Their main uh, um, not agriculture, but livestock is the yak. So I joke it's apparently it's yak meat, yak milk, yak butter, yak skin, yakety yak, yak, yak,
Yak
yak.
tea, butter
Yeah.
tea, yeah, all of
Yeah,
it.
yak tea, all
Yeah.
of it. Exactly. And so you've got the Tibet for recorded all of recorded history has always been a religious theocracy where you've got these abbots in these temples who are the word of God, the source here on earth to the divine or the divine embodied.
Mm.
And they're literally living in these temples adorned with gold.
Yeah.
Okay. Being fed up in that temple and maintained. And and how does that happen? Well, it's because if you're in the village and you don't want to give up your child to the monks at the temple, they take your child, or they would take your child rather. This is before the communist revolution and all that, for better or worse. Okay, the change was before that. It was feudalism. It was religious theocracy feudalism. Okay, to be more clinically correct about it. where the religious theocracy part is the Buddhist Tibetan Bon animism aspect, which includes human sacrifice and skinning humans alive. And that's a practice that the high Dalai Lamas engage in. Okay. And then there's a slavery and sexual exploitation of the boys and the girls. So the Dalai Lama in front of everyone asking the little boy to suck his tongue, that is just like Pedowood and Seville in the royal family. That's all par for the course, people. And make no mistake about it. That is darkness masquerading as false light is what it's called. Just like, in Christianity, it would be, I'll call it out the Catholic Church. They're, they're the satanic Baal and Molech worshiping that survived into the Roman Empire, harming little children for blood products, and Khazarian mafia type stuff, um, all just today in the New Age movement. And the New Age movement, and for example, this New Age TV streaming service, it's really here to divert us from the real life, the real ascension. They want to give us the airy-fairy New Age movement that doesn't have us um, examine the darkness because according to them, that just lowers our vibe. We always have to be in a high state of consciousness and being. Don't ever lower your state of consciousness. Don't talk about certain subjects because that'll lower our consciousness somehow. And that's um, something that I feel the need to openly call out as a volunteer organizer in the movement. No one made me in charge. I'm not in charge. I'm a voice, I'll use my voice to advance this understanding that no, I wish because there's been a lot of people crying in the community. There's been some controversy. Why can't we all get along? And because of controversies like that and people not knowing the nuanced detail of it, and how to approach it from a movement perspective. Um, they often will leave. They'll close down their social media. I mean, I've seen this and I'm seeing this. They'll close out their YouTube channels, and there goes hours and hours of testimony that really needs to be there for people, no matter how butthurt someone got for whatever reason.
And why do you think
Um,
they do that? Mm.
well, when I say butt hurt, it's not everyone. Sometimes people are legit being attacked so badly, I can understand it, and I'm not saying, oh, they got butt hurt because their loved one got murdered. Okay, I understand that. Okay, I understand that. I'm talking butt hurt from like um a friend of theirs got Voice 2K to like write a nasty post about them, and because of a nasty post, they couldn't handle it. And that's what I call getting nervous in the service. There's obviously a difference in level of attack and severity between the loss of a loved one, say, and all of that stuff can happen. Have your eyes open. Penny Bradley, she's had a lot of people approach her and share information with her and ask her, well, should I come out or should I not? And to her credit, me, I'm kind of like go, like of course you should, okay, like we need you out here. Penny's more like, well, you got to really take an examination. Are you ready for your life to possibly be ruined? Are you ready to be possibly targeted, by some nasty people? And if you are, then yes. But if you're not,
But
if you
who's ever ready for that, Brian? Like I remember back in the day when I started to first channel consciously the Pleiadians, I had a gap of like maybe 3 months at the most, maybe 3 months at the most, if my memory serves me correctly, before I was targeted.
well, I think there's a couple different reasons and groupings. Like if you want to go back to it from the Dolores Cannon incarnation perspective, when Source God put out a call throughout all the realms to see who wanted to assist here on Earth and then here and now to anchor in a higher timeline and liberate us all. Who wants to incarnate here? There are two main groupings. There are people or entities, well, people, beings, souls who answered the call, who volunteered. They showed up and they wanted to come like right off the bat. And then there are more souls who are kind of like maybe it took a little bit more recruitment and then they signed up for it. Okay. And so maybe I kind of put myself more in that first category. So like to me, when you ask questions like who's ever ready to answer the call, like I always have made so I'm a Leo or whatever. I've always had that fiery urge to like jump into the fire.
No, I'm sorry, Brian. I meant who's ever ready to for the targeting.
Oh, for the targeting?
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of like I got like a bring it on attitude at this point. It's like because it's like because I know that for all the targeting they target on me, they're losing per per karma or magic, the law of three or seven or 10 or 100 or whatever. Okay, you want to mess with me, try to give me a headache or make me sleepy in the here and now. You're gonna pay for that 100 times over, buddy. And what you think you're gonna pay now in this incarnation? What's your next incarnation gonna look
Yeah.
like? Like, you sure you want to do that? And also, hey, I can relate. Maybe you're chained at a desk being made to do it, which actually puts the karma on the person forcing you to do it. And hey, I sympathize with you all that much the more. Help me, help you. Help us, help you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then as far as the targeting, and then a lot of people, it's the Peter principle. Uh, a lot of times as an organizer, this is more my case as an organizer, is we're put into situations or roles that we're not quite ready yet so that we can grow into the role. The idea is, of course, you have the proper tutelage and on-the-job training and mentorship, people who are certified to help you grow into the role. But the idea is that you want to always be moving up so that you are growing into the next role higher up, and you're also bringing up the next person. And that's very much important for the movement here, the larger movement. And I was trained in how to be everything from a volunteers coordinator to a fundraiser, to an event organizer to an advocate, to then teaching other people how to do all those things, running them as systems, and then having recruiting and organizing a staff to then being at an operations level, and then to that potentially you could grow an organization, then you could go regional and then worldwide. And that's really safety in numbers, that principle of crowdsourcing
Yes.
and outing the people. And then a lot of times when they get outed, it turns out that a lot of our targeting might not even be from humans. They could be coming from higher level, quote unquote, higher level spiritual beings. Well, once they're outed and made known by our remote viewer friends or our galactic friends, now we can call in higher levels of protection and justice to deal with the higher level predators. Okay. And this is all part of clearing out the timeline. Um, probably a good question to ask if you're dealing with a psychic medium or channeler is, I haven't been asked this question, but I'm just now thinking about it because I know this happens, is do I have any negative portals around me or my household or my region I should know about? Okay. When Arkeem and Kat were here, we've talked about this publicly. There have been times where Kat literally without her knowing it consciously, when she was altering out, she would like mumble stuff and she's like hand magic and gestures and stuff. And then she'd open up a portal. And like I wouldn't be able to see it. Maybe I could feel it, maybe, but nah, probably not. Like I wouldn't bet on it. But like some of my housemates and business partners, they could see it. And they could see like darkness coming out of this portal. And they're like, dude, did you just see that? Like, oh my God. And then like they were talking about how for like weeks, and it took them weeks and months to properly close the portal. That cat in like one like 30-second like opened up and like dark stuff was coming through and it's like, okay, this is not good. So, this for the people out there listening to this who aren't familiar with the more unseen realms, the beyond the veil, having the third eye open, it is very real. And it's the irony, of course, is that I don't personally have my third eye open. I'm going to conferences and hanging out with people who are like, oh, look, shadow beings or Sasquatch or like ET probes. Like it's a blue light craft. It's flying around like the ceiling. Like they're talking with each other about seeing it and like pointing it out like in real time. Like I know they're seeing this stuff, but I can't see it. But, you know, as they say in the good book, those who can walk by faith alone are even more blessed. So take it for that.
Thank you, Brian. Woods, I don't think I'm going to be doing a channeling tonight. What with everything that's been going on with me personally. Would anybody like to add anything to that? It's been great this evening. Thank you for sharing so much information. It's been really great.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me basically get out the best summary that I could in so much time. Thank you. Once you air this, please tag me so that I can share this out. I refer to a lot of people in our community who have questions about being targeted. I'll say always be willing to call and source God for protection and help in your higher self.
Yeah.
And then I can go in a bunch of more stuff as well. But did Dennis have something to say?
Well, thank you, brother.
You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. Um, any questions or comments? Anything you wanted to add?
Uh, no, I think on another evening, it's just something you brought up with
Your sound
sci-fi
isn't
writer Dick.
your sound isn't good, Dennis.
You're a little muffled, Dennis, just a little bit.
Oh, hello, is it better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Uh, I just think it interesting, you mentioning Dick as a sci-fi writer. It's so interesting that, you know, we are living in a matrix with a controlled reality. And so it is so interesting that very often the creators and writers of science fiction can break through the matrix so as they present a part of reality which is hidden by the program. And so and whether it's Star Wars or whether it's Roddenberry's Star Trek or whether it is The Matrix, all of these so interestingly expand our uh, conception and our awareness. So we're more able to grasp the more of reality that exists than what is presented and what is, uh, so we get to see what is hidden. And it can stimulate our own uh, remembrances and recollection and knowingnesses of past lives and galactic experiences. That's quite interesting.
Yes.
And that's happened with me with so much science fiction material. I remember, uh, you know, uh, so many decades ago, reading a Warhammer book. And in this Warhammer book, it was presenting a story within uh, a canine species, a canine war species. And what was so interesting was how I came to realize that that actually reflected a reality, and a reality that I had experience of as incarnated in. So it's like just the serendipity to hit something that was quite a seemingly fantastic and outlandish story and reality, and I can go, oh wow, I was part of that.
Yeah, with a couple of things there, Dennis. Um, in the case of Gene Roddenberry, the Galactics, specifically sent telepathic messages via oh gosh, I always forget her name. Some lady in Berkeley in like the 50s and 60s, might have been to channel the prime directive and all that information to help seed this consciousness and knowledge amongst us. And then this literally does help awaken things in our genetics. These are called genetic activations and light codes. In the case of George Lucas, someone who did a reading was saying that it's probably likely that he was part of the Orion Wars in a past life on the Rebel Alliance, and so he was channeling those experiences and incorporating them into Star Wars. Star Wars is supposed to be the history, a part of our galactic history, the Orion Wars. Star Trek is supposed to be more contemporary, showing like the Galactic Federation and stuff with modern era. Yes, Julia?
So I always remember in Next Generation when Riker goes to that planet where they don't have a gender. Do you remember that episode? And
Mm-mm.
he falls in love with a person, and there's an underground where they show that they're male and female, but on the surface they have to be a neutral zero gender. And but this was in like what's 1990s.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, so I don't know if that was like a projection or something, that they were just testing the waters to see if that kind of agenda would take or not. But I always remember that episode because it was just so unusual at that point in time to even suggest that there was something other than male and female. It was just outrageous at the time. Yeah.
Right. Well, apparently
Mm.
there are ET races where that's a thing, and I'm not against it. What I'm against is a transhumanism agenda trying to invert children. I don't think that that should be done. I think if it's going to be done, it's a free will of a person, uncoerced and, also brainwashed in the so-called school system. So I'll leave it at that because I lived in San Francisco for 20 years. I've had gay roommates and many trans friends. So, people here, oh, Brian voted for Trump. I used to be a Bernie-crat, guys, but whatever. Um, in terms of um, the significance of what Dennis was speaking to, though, with these activations and this knowledge and these authors um, writing and really disclosing these alternate realities or galactic origins, the dogmen of Canis Major and Minor, the dog star, that really is a thing. Those dog beings really are coming here and visiting us on Earth from time to time. And then there's a whole dogman breeding program, which Jessica Jones, the cryptid huntress, and others speak to quite a bit in research in remote view. But apparently, I think Elizabeth April picked this up in a galactic reading. If humanity hadn't gone through the Montauk Project and all the terrible, nasty stuff that we've been through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we would be on a lower timeline. Apparently, going through the trials and tribulations, this crucible, and I'm not justifying it because I don't think it had to be as terrible by a long shot, the nasty stuff, especially not that stuff. But my consolation to the community who's had to endure this stuff is that, you know, off the price that you've paid, you've helped enable humanity and the rest of this universe be on a higher timeline, the highest timeline. And so there's that consolation to be had. Now, in terms of psychic protection, Randy Kramer teaches some techniques, and others. One of his techniques, that I like, I'll share it, but I want to give a shout out to Randy Kramer. He has a website and a course to take. He talks about first and also in the Bible, Ephesians, the armor of God, the first bit of armor you put on is your helmet of salvation. So you got to be of clear mind because you could be driving the most awesome car or riding the most awesome horse with the sharpest sword or the biggest guns. But if you're cuckoo, cuckoo, and you're all scrambled and discombobulated, you don't know which way to drive or fly, that's no good. What he calls it is he calls it his blue bubble of protection. It's like a psychic blue bubble. And I've heard this from other people. There's a color, it's like this color, apparently, and it's like psychic blue. Um, and in the wavelength, it might be the 666 number. That's the number that there's also that wavelength, that blue that they paint on the houses that the laser beam can't touch. And 666 isn't in itself an inherently bad number. Like all numbers, 111, 222, 333, 444, 555, 777. It's a power number. The other side, they've co-opted it for their own uses. Just like the pentagram. Pentagram is a beautiful uni unicursive symbol, right? You can like make one without picking up your pencil in a circle around it. And it can be a good thing, especially in the upright orientation. It's a symbol of power. Just because the other, it's summoning, obviously, but the other side is using it for evil and wrongdoing. Does that mean all pentagrams or pentacles are bad? Does it mean all tarot readers are bad? No. And we were told, we were commissioned by Brother Yeshua to go out, save souls, and to work miracles. And vision and all of that many times more than what he himself did. That's our job. Okay, so I just want to squash the whole witchcraft and all that side of things. Because I understand, I've been there. I've been on that side of thinking, and I rapidly realized how badly the Bible itself, the King James version, King James was a 33rd degree Freemason, and he intentionally omitted especially the female um, testimonies and gospels. And that's why the Ethiopian Bible has 88 books, because Ethiopia, that region of northern Africa, was never fully conquered by the Freemasons and the Illuminati, apparently, or at least in that time period to pervert the Bible or to minimize it. And then even then in real life, I mean, just right now, pick up your Bible, go to Isaiah 11:6, I think it is, and where it used to say, "And the lion shall lay down with the lamb," it now says, "And the wolf shall lay down with the lamb." And this could be in your family Bible. Go check it out. This is a Mandela effect. I've had other people confirm it. And I'm not sure if my Bible is old enough because I remember looking at it and I don't remember that. And then I look at it now and it says the wolf. And that's a very real visceral Mandela effect for me. And I'm sure a ton of people remember it. So the lion. And the reason why it's the wolf now is because the other side, the Luciferians, are trying to muddy the waters and get us to think it's okay to change it from the noble lion in this metaphor. Not that wolves can't be noble, but just for their senses, the wolf is a bad character. And so they want to Mandela affect it into the wolf laying down with the lamb. Yeah. So the blue bubble of protection is you imagine a bubble around your head of this color and just envision it and strengthen it and make it pulse. And then you can give yourself another bubble of protection around your body, and it could be more of a pink color, and pick your own colors, maybe vibrate, resonate with you, the colors of your aura, the healthy aspects of the colors of your aura. You could might be a choice, and envision that as a bubble around your body. And so you got a helmet, and now you've got a body bubble, and then envision pulsing your bubble by making it solid and hard like a candy shell, and then really hard like titanium, and then make it in see-through so that now you can see through it and it's really hard. Make it invisible. So now you got a bubble and people don't even know. You can give yourself a bubble of invisibility and envision that. And I used to be one of these people growing up for the longest time was like, oh, wow, you can visualize something. Who cares? What's the big deal? What's the big deal with that? Well, or how does that work? Like, how does that do anything? Like how does prayer work? How does positive thinking work? Well, if you want to be scientific and right-brained about it, or sorry, left-brained about it, I forget which one. It might be right-brained. I don't know, whichever one it is. Um, it's called quantum entanglement. And by visualizing, you're literally quantum entangling. And that's just at a basic level. Then if you're in the astral realm, where a lot of the people in our community, they're able to access the soul realms. Um, when they're envisioning things, it has a much more real effect. So apparently, if someone's being astrally attacked, Drago Reed talks about bringing about his dragon incarnation and hitting them with astral dragon fire and burning them. And not only will it burn that person who's trying to mess with them in the astral, it can have physical effects. Okay. Like, for example, my housemate, Jaden Mills, he decided, because he's discovering, his abilities were all being activated now. And he's very psychically gifted. Um, he can telepathically speak with their dogs, full conversations, and it's wild. He was trying to at night go on missions to remote view or bilocate or astral project to a deep underground military base. And apparently, in the astral, he goes to this base, um, and inside of it, he remembers seeing like vats of acid, and he walks up to a vat, and all of a sudden, before he can react, acid is splashed out of this vat, just like a splash, like wave, like into his face, and then he gets pushed into the vat, and then he wakes up the next day, and his eyesight, this is 3 weeks now. His eyesight, his vision is still blurry, but it's coming back. For the first 2 weeks, he was wary about driving. So in the physical. And when he first came and told me about this experience the next day, his skin, he's African American. His black skin was really like ashy, had like all this ashy crap over it. Like when a black person is sunburned, you know, like the way their skin looks is really dry. It's like, holy cow, And so the power of the mind and the astral and the soul and the physical, it's all interconnected. And so it can definitely have an effect, in the positive and the negative. And so calling in the higher beings and your connection to God's source, um, which will always be the most powerful, um, will go a long way towards offering protection. Um, there's ways that you can render yourself invisible so that, when you're walking through places like New Orleans, and there's a lot of like witches and warlocks there who are of the negative persuasion, a lot of the positive as well, I'm sure. But like on Bourbon Street, there are people they take energy, and they're in places that are very highly trafficked, where there's a lot of loose, emotional, sexual, violent, energy, raucousness, people who have their hedges of protection down because they're drunk or way too high or coked up or whatever, and they'll take your energy. And walking through down Bourbon Street with Jaden and my wife, who's pregnant at the time, and our dog, Winnie the Wonder Dog, coming back home for the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference on the drive back from Florida through New Orleans, all the way back here to Northern Nevada. Both Jaden and Winnie can see demons on people or just free walking. Um, and so Bourbon Street, they were all over the place. I can't see them. And apparently people were paying the most attention, the people who have sight, and the more energy vampires or people who had demonic attachments on them. These beings and entities were paying the most attention to my wife carrying our then unborn and now born daughter. And then they were paying the next most attention to Jaden. And then they were like not paying me any attention at all. And I'm like, well, why not? Because I know in general I have a very bright aura. But what I suspect is that I've got shielding and protection that renders me to a large extent invisible to a lot of these beings to the point that where they don't know to pay attention to me. And then in other cases, what I'm told is that the beings who do know of me, it's like they're concerned that I might wield authority against them, not personal authority, but by invoking the authority of Brother Yeshua in Christ, or the authority of God's source who sent Brother Yeshua in Christ to spread the message of love and light and peace and thriving prosperity. And so those higher energies that helps to block out more of this the spiritual enemies and the spiritual attacks, because when you're surrounded in that spiritual energy, and shielding or having authority or protection. Now, mind you, with the more protection and authority you have, the higher the stakes are, and if you stray, the worse the consequences. So, there is that, right? Um, it's not all like, yay. No, no, that the stakes get higher, the consequences and the punishments for straying get higher. So, um, but there's so that kind of helps to cover, I hope, during the course of this discussion, dealing with the psychotronic warfare, dealing with telepathic attacks and the one-on-one with handlers, and then dealing with more just general psychic defense um, and then on the hygiene aspect, lest I forget, cleansing yourself, grounding yourself with like showers and visualization of washing off the negative energy, going and standing in a creek or a river or a brook or a stream barefoot to literally let Mama Earth through the water take away the negative energy is really good. If you're given something by someone who's trying to influence negative energy on you and you don't know what to do with it, try not to litter, but like if it's like a Ouija board, I've been told like tear it up in pieces and throw it down the river and let it uh degrade naturally is the best way to do it. Hey, Johnny.
Can I just add as
Oh, over
well,
to you.
working with the violet flame, of course,
Yeah,
for
violet flame.
protection, yeah, and transmutation. And anyone can work with the violet flame. It works with the law of one. You just need to call it in and visualize it around you.
Yes, the golden flame, the violet flame, is great. I understand. Golden light, the light of Source God is really good, and pure white light energy. Yes, all of that. And I'm sorry, I had to check in. A housemate was speaking with me, and he's one of the people who can sense energy and can help heal at by touch and take away pain, or encounter someone here or local restaurant casino. Hey, Johnny. And they're like, oh, like I don't believe you. And like, a local's like, oh no, Johnny, he's a real deal. Like, I don't believe it. And then Johnny's like, oh yeah, well, like your uncle, like when you were young and a little brat told you blah 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 blah. And person's like, like they have to like leave suddenly. It's like that, right, Johnny?
Yeah. And then at the
Oh,
that
Johnny,
brings
this is being recorded, so we'll do it later. This is a just group call. Okay, so yes, so there's the psychic hygiene and cleansing is very important. There's also revoking and renouncing all contracts of negativity. You know, um, Good contracts, yeah, you don't have to revoke that, but anything not in accordance with your highest good, there's a lot of people, I found this out from Misha Johnston and others, um, that who have lived past lives who've taken vows of poverty. Or maybe we've entered into spiritual contracts with people who, or entities who do not have our highest good in mind. You revoke that. There's the cord cutting in the here and now. of narcissists. You can visualize the cord between you and literally cut it. Okay. And they'll feel that energy apparently. They'll be calling you back, all of a sudden, and it's up to you to let them in your life or not. But that's your power. Um, Another one was let's see, renouncing the vows, cutting the cords. Um, that's a lot of it. I hope we covered a lot here. Yeah.
Yeah, we did, and thank you so much. Um, it's would anyone, because I don't, I'm just kind of reveling from everything that you've shared this evening, and I definitely won't be channeling this evening. But is there anything else anyone would like to share before we wrap it up? And please all send me your bios as soon as I stop the recording for this, because I tend to um, upload it very quickly. So Dennis and Julia, would you like to add anything? I think Dennis, unless Julia has anything to share, or Brian has anything else, I think Dennis, if you could end with a prayer. Julia, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you. That was really informative. Thank you, Brian. That was
No, my
great.
pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Listen, please share.
Yeah, it's fine. I feel no need to end with a prayer. Someone else might like to do that. I just want to say thanks to the group for being here. And Brian, thank you for so generously giving of your time this evening. Thank you.
My pleasure. Of course. Thank you, Dennis. You're welcome.
Okay, I guess that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Thank you to everyone, and love and light. God bless to all. Blessings as above, so below, as within, so without. So be it.